A small apartment in Rosamond, California. A young woman who just won a beauty pageant lies cold on her bed, a blue sock still wrapped around her neck. Her mother screams in agony beside her daughter's body. The killer? Vanished like smoke. 24 years pass. The murderer lives like any normal person, teaching, raising kids, while a family waits desperately for justice. Can science awaken the truth from the fibers of a sock? This is the story of Tana Woolley, Miss Rosamond, and the most shocking murder case in Kern County history. Welcome to the Case Files, where we expose shocking cases, mysteries solved through science, and the relentless perseverance of those seeking justice. Today, we're diving deep into one of California's most haunting cold cases, a murder that took place in 1978 but wasn't solved until DNA technology revolutionized criminal investigations 2 decades later. In this episode, we're taking a deep dive into the infamous case of the Beauty Queen murder, Tana Woolley, and the 24-year hunt for justice. A story about family love, the failure of the justice system, and ultimately, the triumph of modern science. Part 1. A Girl with a Bright Future. Tana Renee Woolley was born on May 19, 1958, in Los Angeles, California, into a happy and loving family. Her father, William Woolley, worked as a test manager at a local military base. Her mother, Helen Woolley, was a teacher at Rosamond High School. With 2 stable incomes, the Woolley family raised 4 children in a home filled with love in the peaceful town of Rosamond in Kern County. Tana grew up as a girl full of promise. She was radiant, energetic, intelligent, and beautiful. As a teenager, she joined the Demolay Youth Organization, a Masonic organization for young people, and was an active member of her school's student center. In 1976, Tana graduated from Rosamond High School with excellent grades. That same year, at age 18, she was crowned Miss Rosamond, 1976, the pride of the entire small town. But Tana wasn't drawn to the glamorous life of modeling or stardom. She had a compassionate heart. Instead of chasing the spotlight, she worked as a secretary at NASA, National Aeronautics and Space Administration, while studying education at Antelope Valley College, with dreams of becoming a teacher for children with disabilities. By October 1978, at 20 years old, Tana decided to live independently. She rented a small apartment at 2100 Poplar Street, Rosamond, just a few minutes' drive from her parents' house. It was the first step of adulthood, full of excitement and confidence. She had a boyfriend, Ricky Ross, 18 years old, a gentle young man also living in the area. Life seemed to be opening up a bright future. But then, everything collapsed in just a few weeks. Part 2. A Nameless Fear and the Night of Horror. Despite her excitement about her new life, Tana didn't spend much time at her apartment. Part of the reason was that she often stayed at her boyfriend Ricky's place, but another part was because she felt unsafe. Tana had shared multiple times with her mother, sister, and friends that there was a tall, dark-skinned man living in the building who always watched her. When she took out the trash, walked down the hallway, or stepped outside, that man would appear, staring intently, even inviting her out several times despite being rejected. Tana was scared, but not enough to move out. Instead, she and Ricky came up with a safety plan. Every night, Ricky would walk her right to her apartment door, waiting until she was safely inside and had locked the door before leaving. October 24, 1978, a fateful night. As usual, Ricky drove Tana home after they played games and watched TV at his place. Around 10 p.m., they arrived at the building. A neighbor saw them say goodbye to each other, Tana stepping inside, and Ricky driving away. But in the darkness, a demon was lurking. Around 10:30 p.m., neighbors heard a small, weak scream, then quick silence. They thought someone was startled by something trivial, so they didn't call the police. a decision they would regret for the rest of their lives. October 25, 1978, around 9:30 a.m., Tana's boss at NASA called Helen Woolley, informing her that Tana hadn't shown up for work, completely unusual for a girl who was always punctual and hardworking. Helen repeatedly called her daughter, but no one answered. A terrible feeling consumed her. She immediately drove to Tana's apartment. Part 3. The horrific crime scene and the investigation's dead end. When she arrived, Helen saw the door only slightly closed, the doorframe broken. Her heart felt like it stopped. Gathering all her courage, she stepped inside. The living room was ransacked. Clothes and belongings were scattered all over the floor. Signs showed there had been a serious struggle. She called her daughter's name, but only silence answered. She moved toward the bedroom and witnessed the nightmare that no mother could ever forget. Tana lay on her side on the bed, her body naked from the waist down. One blue sock remained on her right foot, her left foot bare, and the other sock was wrapped tightly around her neck. Helen screamed, trembling as she called the police. The Kern County Forensic Medical Examiner's Office received the body the same day. Initial conclusions. Time of death: around 10 to 11 p.m. on October 24th, 1978. Cause of death: asphyxiation from strangulation. Evidence of sexual assault. Semen was found in the victim's body. No other DNA traces at the scene, indicating the killer was very careful and likely had prepared thoroughly. This wasn't a robbery. No property was stolen. The killer even brought a condom, showing premeditation, but still left semen behind, perhaps due to the victim's fierce resistance. The FBI was called in, specifically the Behavioral Analysis Unit, a division specializing in dealing with dangerous killers. They created a psychological profile of the perpetrator. Male, 20-35 years old, tall, strong. History of violence against women. Works in a job requiring meticulousness based on how traces were concealed. Appears intelligent, but has been rejected romantically, leading to dangerous behavior. May have attacked women before police first questioned Ricky Moross. But Ricky had a solid alibi. A neighbor witnessed him saying goodbye to Tana and then leaving. He was removed from the suspect list. However, Ricky provided crucial information. Tana had told him about a tall, dark-skinned man living in the building who constantly watched her. This person was a teacher who had invited her out multiple times, despite being rejected. The Woolley family felt the local police were overwhelmed and lacked resources. They decided to hire private investigator Lou McNeil. Lou went to the building, knocked on every apartment door, and talked to every resident. And many people pointed to one name: Larry Kossuth Hazlitt Jr. Hazlitt Jr. Or Part 4. Suspect number 1. Larry Hazlitt. Larry Hazlitt, about 30 years old at the time, born in 1948, was a music teacher. He lived in apartment number 5, just a few meters from Tana's bedroom window. Neighbors described him as strange, unpleasant, with abnormal behavior. Ricky confirmed. That was the person Tana feared. Although Larry's age didn't completely match the FBI profile, they predicted 20 and 35 years old, and Larry was right in that range. Every other characteristic matched perfectly. Tall, dark-skinned, lived near the victim, exhibited stalking behavior. Detective Lou reported to the police. They summoned Larry Hazlitt. Larry claimed that on the night of October 24th, 1978, he was at a grocery store near his home. But no one confirmed this statement. Police detained Larry, took his fingerprints, searched, but found no physical evidence linking him to the crime scene. In 1978, DNA technology didn't exist. The semen sample was preserved, but couldn't yet be used to identify someone. Larry Hazlitt was released, and 5 months later, he disappeared from Rosamond. The case hit a complete dead end, but there was one thing the killer didn't count on: A Mother's Love and Perseverance. Part 5. 20 Years of Never Giving Up, A Mother's Call. Helen Woolley never gave up. Month after month, year after year, she called the Kern County Sheriff's Department. She asked about the investigation's progress. She reminded them about her daughter. She wouldn't let them forget Tana. For 20 years, she never quit. When Helen became frail with age, Tana's younger sister, Tana Woolley, later Kane, continued the mission. Taryn called regularly every month, even bringing a photo album of her sister to the police station, telling the detectives, "I want you to really know my sister. I want you to be close to her." In 1995, the O.J. Simpson case shocked America, sparking a revolution in DNA technology for criminal investigations. Helen Woolley saw hope. In 1999, she kept calling, demanding, "Why aren't you using DNA? You can retest the sock, the bedspread. DNA can find the killer." Finally, after dozens of calls, Taryn connected with Sergeant Chris Spear of the Kern County Sheriff's Office. Spear was a dedicated detective. He agreed to review the case file, and he discovered something important. Part 7. A lead from a dark past. In the old files, Spear saw the name Larry Kossuth Hazlitt, Jr., the person private investigator Lou McNeil had suspected back in 1978. Spear dug deep into Larry's background, and he was stunned by what he found. 1969. Larry was convicted of sexual assault and armed robbery. 1973. Larry was suspected of assaulting another woman, but the victim dropped the charges out of fear. After leaving Rosamond in 1979, Larry moved to Sacramento. He got married, had children, and lived a normal life as a music teacher at a high school. Neighbors knew nothing about his dark past. But Larry didn't stop. Spear discovered he continued committing crimes, assaulting several other women, but had never served time in prison. October 1999, Spear traveled to Sacramento. He knocked on Larry Hazlitt's door, a peaceful house with a garden where a happy family lived. Spear explained that he was reinvestigating an old case and needed a DNA sample to rule out suspects. Larry, confident that after 21 years no one could prove anything, agreed to provide blood and hair samples. That was his biggest mistake. Part 7. DNA, the weapon of truth. In early 2000, the Kern County District Attorney's Office Crime Lab received Larry Hazlitt's DNA sample. They compared it with the semen sample collected from the bedspread at the crime scene in 1978. Result: a perfect 100% match. Probability of coincidence: 1 in 126 billion people. Larry Hazlitt was the killer. On the day the results came in, the Woolley family, Helen, William, and Taryn, were together. The phone rang. Spear called to announce, "We got him." They hugged each other and cried. After 22 years of agonizing waiting, justice had finally arrived. Larry Hazlitt was arrested in Sacramento. When questioned, he completely denied it. "I never met Tana Woolley." But DNA doesn't lie. His statement completely contradicted the scientific evidence. When confronted, Larry began trembling, demanding a lawyer. He was charged with first-degree murder with special circumstances, potentially facing the death penalty. Part 8. Building an unbreakable wall of evidence. In December 2002, prosecutor Ed Jaggles, one of Kern County's most veteran prosecutors, took on the case. This was one of the last cases he would personally handle before retirement. Jaggles recognized a problem. If they only relied on DNA from the bedspread, Larry could argue that he had once had a consensual relationship with Tana, but for some reason never mentioned it. This could create reasonable doubt and help Larry escape conviction. Jaggles needed more than that. He enlisted the help of renowned investigator Shane Brown, or Chen Brown in some sources. Together, they began digging deep into Larry Hazlitt's past, and they uncovered a horrifying pattern of crimes. 4 women, 4 victims. 3 incidents occurred before Tana was killed. 1 occurred after. Ed Joggles and Shane Brown followed every lead, finding each victim. They lived in different places, didn't know each other, but all told the same story. Larry Hazlitt was initially very polite, friendly, and approachable. But when they were alone, he suddenly attacked, assaulting them brutally. One victim even had a clear bite mark scar. Larry had bitten her so severely that it left a permanent wound. However, at the time these incidents occurred, during the 1970s, 1980s, although the victims reported to police, none took the case to court. They were scared, ashamed, and didn't want to relive their painful past. After nearly 30 years, they still didn't want to go to court. But when Joggles and Brown explained the Tana case, that a young woman had been killed, all of them felt deep remorse. They thought, if I had spoken up earlier, Tana might not have died. All 4 women agreed to testify in court. But Ed Joggles still wasn't done. He returned to the Kern County Forensic Lab, requesting they retest the blue sock, the murder weapon used to strangle Tana. He asked forensic analyst Brenda Smith to check whether the sock might still contain skin cells from the killer's hands, because when strangling someone, the skin of the hands typically rubs strongly against fabric, leaving microscopic traces. Brenda Smith carefully used a scalpel to scrape the surface fibers of the sock, collecting tiny cells, then placed them in a test tube for analysis. Result? A small amount of human DNA. Smith extracted the DNA sequence and built a partial DNA profile, and it matched Larry Hazlitt. Although not a perfect 100% match, due to the small sample, it was enough to completely refute the argument that the DNA on the bedspread was from a consensual relationship. Because, if it was just a relationship, Larry couldn't possibly have left DNA on the very sock used to strangle the victim. The only conclusion: Larry Hazlitt assaulted Tana Woolley, then murdered her with her own blue sock. Part 9. The Trial and the Death Sentence. On June 10, 2004, the case was officially brought to trial at Kern County Superior Court, California. The jury heard 4 testimonies from previous victims proving Larry was a serial predator, DNA sample from the bedspread, 100% match, probability 1 in 126 billion, partial DNA sample from the murder weapon sock, proving Larry strangled Tana. The defense attorney tried to attack the DNA evidence, arguing that the semen may not have been initially found on the bedspread. But the jury didn't buy it. An FBI expert in behavioral analysis was invited to recreate the sequence of events. On the night of October 24, 1978, after Ricky dropped Tana off, she entered her apartment. Larry Hazlitt, tall and stronger, had been lying in wait. When Tana closed the door, he forcefully pushed his way in. Tana resisted fiercely, but couldn't fight off his strength. He assaulted her, then used her own blue sock to strangle her to death. In May 2004, after a week of trial and only 1 hour and 30 minutes of deliberation, the jury declared, Larry Kusuth Hazlitt Jr. is guilty of first-degree murder and sexual assault, with special circumstances. With aggravating factors, including 4 prior assaults, the prosecutor requested the death penalty. On June 14, 2004, just 5 days before what would have been Tana's 46th birthday, if she had lived, Larry Hazlitt was sentenced to death. He is currently incarcerated at San Quentin State Prison, now San Quentin Rehabilitation Center, which houses the largest male death row in America, awaiting automatic appeals under California law. Part X. After the verdict, justice and wounds that never fully heal. When the verdict was announced, Helen Woolley said, "We are very happy. but there's never going to be a complete closure. The wound has healed, but the scar will always be there. William Woolley, the father who had silently endured for 26 years, said, "It's been one that I hope no one else has to go through. You just hope every day that something is going to come down the line to let you know that they finally found the guy and convicted him." Taryn Kane, Tana's sister, said, "We never gave up. My mother called every month for 20 years. Then I continued. We wanted the detectives to be close to my sister, to understand who she was. And finally, they did." At the press conference announcing Larry Hazlitt's arrest in 2002, the detectives returned to Taryn the photo album about Tana that she had given them. They said, "This album helped us. It helped us remember that this isn't just a case. This is a human being." The Tana Woolley case isn't just a story about crime and punishment. It's a profound lesson about many aspects of society, the justice system, and human nature. First, this is proof of the power of family love and perseverance. Helen Woolley, Wanobai mother, never gave up for 20 years. She called every month, reminding police, not letting them forget her daughter. And it was that perseverance that led to the case being reviewed with DNA technology. Second, the case shows that scientific technology can change the game. In 1978, DNA technology didn't exist. Larry Hazlitt was released due to lack of evidence. But 22 years later, that very technology put him in prison. This reminds us, never give up on unsolved cases. Science always advances. Third, the case exposes systemic gaps in tracking repeat offenders. Larry Hazlitt had a prior conviction for assault and robbery from 1969, but was still able to work as a teacher, have contact with children, and live peacefully for decades without anyone knowing. This is a serious system failure. Fourth, the story of the 4 other victims shows the importance of speaking up. All 4 women were attacked by Larry, reported to police, but none took it to court because of fear and shame. If one of them had firmly prosecuted Larry in the 1970s, Tana might not have died. Society needs to create a safer legal environment so victims can speak up from the beginning. Finally, Tana Woolley, a beautiful, talented girl full of dreams, had her life stolen at the very moment it was most brilliant. She wasn't just the victim of a murderer, but also the victim of a system that wasn't strong enough to protect her. But she's also a guiding light, helping bring justice to other women who were victims of the same person. If you're following this story, remember, never stay silent in the face of evil. If you or someone you know is a victim of violence, speak up. Your silence today could lead to tragedy for someone else tomorrow. Never give up faith in justice. Justice may come late, but if people don't give up, justice will arrive. Remember the victims. Behind every case is a human being with dreams, family, and a future. Tana Woolley isn't just victim cutoff. She was a daughter, a sister, a girlfriend, Miss Rosamond, someone who dreamed of teaching children with disabilities. She deserves to be remembered. Thank you for listening to the Case Files. If this story touched you, please share it. Let the world know about Tana Woolley and about the power of a family that never gave up. Please subscribe to the channel, hit like, and leave your thoughts in the comments. We'll see you in the next case. Because behind every crime is a truth waiting to be uncovered.